Hello. Okay, I should just mention that I'm really sorry if you can hear any noises. It's really hot in the UK at the moment, and my little boys are playing outside and my eldest is having a tantrum because he can't come and watch me film. So he's being a bit shouty, so if you can hear high-pitched little voices, that's them. I've got the window shut, but there's also someone drilling outside. So all in all, it's not going to be as quiet as it could be. As we are having a bit of a heat wave at the moment, and it is wedding season, and as there are many other countries that are hotter more regularly than the UK, I thought it might be helpful to show you how I recently prepped skin for a wedding that I did in Greece, where it was 38 degrees. And the bride they got married at 6:30 and it was still very, very hot. Her makeup stayed put, and it stayed put until whenever she got home. I think she was still partying at 4 in the morning. So I had to work with products that were going to be good in the heat, long lasting, not make her feel like she's got more on, because obviously if you're hot anyway, if you have a huge thick layer on your face, you're going to feel hotter, but also that would travel well, because I was coming from London. I needed stuff that was going to not melt into each other. If you have palettes like the lovely Bobbi Brown palette, where it's you open it like this and there's products on the other side and then you close it, obviously if the stuff on the top melts, it's going to melt through. So I was just a bit reluctant to do that. I had a fridge in my hotel room, and there was a fridge where I was doing the makeup, but obviously ideally you would rather not have a melting situation at all. A couple of things that I'm going to do differently today, because I'm in London and I'm using my own face, and Maria has beautiful, very good Greek skin, so she is slightly darker than me. She didn't need SPF. She was getting married, as I said, at 6:30, and we were in the shade, and then it got dark, so she didn't need an SPF, even though I would usually always put an SPF on a bride in the summer. I didn't put an SPF on her, but because I'm using retinol and it's 10 o'clock in the morning and it's sunny in London, I'm using an SPF, and I'm using this Delf sunblock lotion, which I was sent to try out, which I have been trying out, and which I've been wearing every day because it's a factor 50, and it is very nice and moisturising. Sometimes if you put an SPF on, it feels kind of tacky or tightening if you've got dry skin, and this hasn't done any of it. And it's really nice. So I think it's about £6. So the thing to think about when you are doing a base for a wedding, for anything that you want to be long lasting but also it works in the heat, is to do a lot of fine layers of things. Also for bridal, I just always think use as sheer a foundation as you can, and use concealers where you need it, because then it's going to give a more beautiful natural finish. As soon as I arrived, I cleansed her face. I always cleanse brides with the Emma Hardy Moringa amazing face cleansing balm, because it's so moisturising, it's so easy to use. You just rub it on, you can give a nice sort of plumping facial with it, and then flannel it off, and it just gives such a brilliant start to applying makeup. So I decant it, I carry it in this little pot, so that was great because I needed to just take one little bag of makeup with me, and we hadn't done a trial, so I needed to kind of take stuff that I think she would like, that would work on her skin. So I started with this cleanser, flanneled it off, let her skin sort of, she patted her skin dry, let it dry for a bit, and then I used this, which I hadn't used before. This is the Bobbi Brown hydrating face cream, but I've heard great things about it, and they very kindly gave me some of these samples to take. So because we were traveling, it's much easier for me to take samples of stuff than to take big pots of cream, and I was really pleased with this actually, so I would really recommend it if you've been thinking about trying it. I used a thin layer of this, which is my go-to primer. I think it's everyone's go-to primer, which is the Laura Mercier foundation primer. It's not the oil-free one, it's just the regular one. I would resist the temptation to buy the illuminating one. I know it's tempting, but for a bridal, you want to add in illumination where you want it. If you use the illuminating primer, you risk having a bit of shine where you don't want it. And I applied everything with a beauty blender. Now this is the Real Techniques one, which I have as backup in my kit, but I would have used the pink original professional beauty blender. That is just the one I favour, that's the one I prefer to use, and that's the one I use on clients. The reason I'm using this is partly because it's damp, so it's cool. Again, I'm not touching her with my face, I'm not aggravating her face with a brush, but also you just get a very nice light application. As I mentioned, I really wanted to avoid any shine whatsoever, and so I used this, which is, I've just reviewed it on my blog. It's a real pro classic product, as Daniel Sandler said in the comments, classic. I don't think I know any makeup artists who don't have this. It is Makeup International Super Matte Anti-Shine, and it comes in 3 shades, light, medium and dark, but they're all really translucent. So this is the medium shade because Maria had olive skin. But as you see, I've got pale skin and I'm going to use it on me. You just pat this where you don't want there to be any shine. So the T-zone, basically, around the nose and up the centre of the forehead. And I'm not sure how well that's going to show up now. I've got a massive red nose at the moment. But it's just, it mattes it out completely. Again, that was a small product, doesn't take up much room. It's not going to leak anywhere, and it's a real lifesaver. It just means that I'm super confident that she's not going to turn around in the church and have a really shiny T-zone. So that's the skin really primed, really light layers, as I said. And then I used matte face and body. Now she had good enough skin that I was very confident with my Louise Young concealer trio in medium olive that I'd taken with me, which was perfect for her skin tone. But because I put the primer on and everything, I wanted to use a really thin layer of this just to give a cohesive look to the face, if that makes sense. So I literally got a tiny bit and I sweep it all over the face because she doesn't need a lot of coverage. For me, I'd usually bump it, but for Maria it was literally just a sort of even, really light coverage. So on Maria, I used the medium olive concealer trio from Louise Young. On me, I would use the medium, and again using my beauty blender. She doesn't really have dark circles, Maria, lucky thing. But again, this, you can add such a light layer, and the packaging is so great because it comes like this. If it does melt, it's all going to stay in its pan. And it didn't melt, it didn't get shiny or greasy or anything. It all travelled really, really well. So then, because I wanted to keep everything looking natural and sweat proof, I used my trusty Daniel Sandler watercolour blush on the cheeks. It's waterproof, it sets, it's really long lasting, and it's not a powder, so it's going to be completely streak proof if she did sweat. You know, it'd be absolutely fine. I then used the Daniel Sandler Invisible Blotting Powder down the centre of the face, where I'd used the matte, the anti-shine. and then everywhere else I used trusty old diffused light because I love the glow it gives. Because I'm in the habit of doing eye makeup first because I want to avoid any drop down mess, cleansed and moisturised her skin. I then did her eye makeup. I then removed any drop down, there was minimal. Patted a tiny bit of moisturiser in where I had cleaned up the drop down, and then carried on with the Laura Mercier primer and the anti-shine and everything that you've seen before. But if you are someone who likes to get your skin perfected first, then just do it in the order I've just shown you. All of these products I would absolutely use again in the same situation. There was nothing that I thought wasn't up to standard. I was just seriously impressed with the results because it was a hard test. It was a hard test of those products to last that long under those conditions, and they all looked fantastic by the end, and they lasted incredibly well. And if you think about it, you know, it's not only are you hot and you're sweaty in 38 degrees, but you're at a wedding. There's a lot of people hugging and kissing you, especially a Greek wedding where everyone is just so I don't know, it has such a different feel to an English wedding. There's none of the reserve of an English wedding. It was just so lovely, but you know, it is a lot of kissing, a lot of hugging, a lot of dancing, and so it was pressure on the makeup to last and look good, and it did, and I was really pleased with it. But if you are going to be doing your own makeup for your wedding this summer, or if you're a makeup artist and you're having some doubts, I definitely spoke to my makeup artist friends about what products they would use, because you know, I work mostly in London. We don't really have, I mean, we don't have 38-degree heat. Most weddings I do, I mean, the maximum is 23, 24. So it was important to me that I got as much advice from people who have worked under those kind of heat conditions. And I used the products that they recommended, and I was so lucky to have that information pool that I could tap into. So I just thought it would be quite useful maybe for those who are in the same position. So that's it. I hope it's been helpful. What I will do is I'll list all the products that I used below. And thank you so much for watching, and I really hope this has been helpful. As is always the way when you've just finished filming a video that you think you've planned really well, I completely forgot to mention something, and that is this, which is the Neod photography fluid, which I bought on the aeroplane. Tried it out on a friend the night before, took loads of photos of her, and it looked really good, and so I applied it on the bride. Now it says to use instead of or under liquid foundation to balance out undesirable skin tones. I don't really know what that means, but what I did is I put some of this on the back of my hand, put some of my face and body in, and then just applied it with my beauty blender onto the bride's face. And as I said, she didn't need a whole lot of coverage of foundation. She would have been fine with just a bit of concealer where she needed it, but I just wanted the whole thing to look good in the photographs, and I really think this helped. I don't know, it gives a sort of, I've got it on the back of my hand here. It is quite perfecting. It's a white, it's white, so it doesn't look like it, you know, it's not toned. It doesn't look like it should do anything, but it did help. And whether I mean, her skin looks great in photos, so whether this has helped at all, it's always hard to tell, but it does seem to perfect skin very nicely for photographs. I'm so annoyed that I forgot to show you in the demonstration, but maybe I will do a quick review of it soon and you can see it in action. Sorry, this is like a PS. There should be a thing. Addendum to a video. That doesn't sound right. You know what I mean. Thank you for watching.